The Backdoor GAA Podcast for 2023 is now brought to you by Steede Motor Group. For your personalised vehicle shopping experience, visit steedemotorgroup.ie. We are now delighted to announce our second sponsor of the podcast. Harper Finlay are a professional service recruitment company operating nationwide and are dedicated to helping people find their dream job.
So delighted now to be joined by RTE's Darren Frehill to look back at Galway Kilkenny over the weekend, where both sides played out a draw in round 2 of the Leinster Senior Hurling Championship. Galway now look forward to a meeting with Westmeath this weekend, where they'll be looking to add a victory and really look at a Leinster final now. But Darren, before we do that, a lot of people know you obviously from the radio on RTE. You've been on the sidelines this year, the couple of matches. Are you enjoying that aspect of it?
Oh yeah, Paul, absolutely. I have to say, I was doing Sunday Sport on Radio 1 for 10 years, and look, I loved it, and I still love it. And I asked my boss in work just could I take a bit of a time out this year because I was just doing it so long. And when you're working the weekends like that, it's not just, you know, people kind of maybe take more note of when the leagues are on, the championship is on, but it's the entire year. So I just took the summer off the radio, but I've been doing a few stints on the sidelines and beyond a little bit further as well over the last couple of weeks, and enjoying it and really enjoying it because it's just a change, you know, and feeling really good. I'm getting really lucky with a few of the games I'm going to as well. I think that always helps along the way, doesn't it?
Yeah, particularly this year between the games you've been at, even the hurling the last day. We were talking about the New York thing off air. Like there must be some memories there already, and it's only the start of the year.
Yeah, it was the first weekend out, and this was my second year covering the New York game. So last year was the Sligo match, and they pushed Sligo all the way. And this year was Leitrim, and I'm going to be honest with you, not many people predicted New York to win it, but I thought they could do it, genuinely thought it. And I said it aloud in the office the week before I went, and there was a few lads kind of laughing at me, you know, and I said, wait till you see. And boy, did we see, didn't we? It was an incredible performance. I have to say, I've been really fortunate. I've been working in the media, for 25 years now, and it was one of the great moments I ever put down. It was magic. How I describe it is like for a club that won the county final for the very first time. It was that sort of feeling. Just, you know, it was just a one-off kind of unique moment. It was kind of, I definitely had tingles down the spine after it, you know. And I think anyone that was there, I think there was about 9,000 people there. And the atmosphere was just, I was off the charts. I'll never forget it.
And this is the Ireland podcast, but we just recorded the football yesterday with Marsh Brosnan, and obviously the draw happened today. So just want to touch on it briefly. If Galway do get over Sligo this weekend, it's Tyrone, the loser of Armagh and Derry, and Westmeath. And then if they were to lose it, they'd the winners of Leinster, Roscommon as well in that group, and Kildare. But in all likelihood, Galway are expected to win this weekend, and there has to be excitement already, because if you think of that weekend, May 20th, May 21st, if they're to win the Connacht title, it's Tyrone to kick off the championship in Pearse Stadium.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Oh yeah, a lot of ifs and buts and maybes. Look, I don't want to offend anyone in Sligo, but you know, if you look at their league placings, and I think if you talk to the Sligo management, you know, they probably are ahead of where they need to be. That championship draw, you know, it's a tough group. I think it's probably not the toughest group, but it's a tough group. I think it's probably the second toughest group. Like Tyrone, All-Ireland champions from a couple of years ago. I know they haven't been going this season, but going well this season. But they have some quality players in there, and I think they're hurting after what happened to them on their home patch. They're going to have a point to prove. That's
It's great. It's great though to think of it, isn't it? If Galway were to win Tyrone Sport just coming to Pearse Stadium, like it's just great that we're going to get these regular games now over the next few weeks. I think it's something like 72 games across the football championships. Like, as a GAA fan, how could you not be excited about this?
Yeah, no, and that's a novel pairing as well, isn't it? I know Galway play them in the league all the time, but to play them in the championship, sure, that barely ever happens, And even, I was actually up at the Armagh game in the athletic grounds. There was serious niggle in that one, serious niggle.
Yeah.
I guess it's coming from the previous year and the penalty shootout. And, to play them again, there's going to be a serious bite to that one. And then Westmeath, I don't know what happened in Westmeath in the Leinster Championship. They're a very good team. Won the Tailteann last year. Like, there seemed to be some sort of crazy collapse in the Leinster Championship. Like, they should really be probably getting ready for a final now. So they have a point to prove. So, yeah, I think it's fascinating. Fancy Galway to come out of it, though. Just about.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something supporters should be getting excited about straight away. But to get into the hurling, Darren, what was it like being just in Nolan Park the last day as a spectacle and just watching on?
The one thing that really struck me, I got down there about 3 hours before throw-in, and I always like to go down nice and early before a game and just kind of get a feel and talk to people. Just the normal supporters who are there, and they get there nice and early as well. Especially Kilkenny people, they just, they love their hurling. It's just a religion down there. So the feeling I got, there was a real buzz. And it was a buzz because of what happened the night before, Paul. That Clare game and Limerick. And look, not that Kilkenny people, they're confident group of people. But I think there was a feeling that, do you know what, there's a championship to be won here. Limerick aren't the be all and end all, or they're not as, they're an absolutely fantastic team, but maybe they're not going to dominate the way they have in previous years, because they got a right scare against Waterford, and then for Clare to turn them over like that. So I think there's real optimism in Kilkenny, and I think there was nearly more Galway people at the game than there was Kilkenny people.
It was 12,000 overall, was it?
There was just over 12. But I think there was, you could nearly say there was half of them were Galway. They travelled in huge numbers because, when there's a score, or, that point at the end, the Galway crowd were a little bit louder than the Kilkenny crowd. So I think there's real optimism there. Galway and Kilkenny are probably on that second tier of teams that are just below Limerick. I think there's a feeling now that, both teams be thinking, we're going to run here, could win Leinster, maybe get an All-Ireland final here and maybe meet Limerick there, So there was that sort of feeling. There was that feeling in the crowd. So then it was a cracking game of hurling. Probably not as exciting or as high octane as the night before, but that was pretty close for me.
Just with that, you talked there about both teams obviously having All-Ireland ambitions, but was there a sense again that you could tell that these teams were going to meet again in the Leinster final?
There was a bit of that about it, yeah. Now, I was interviewed both managers afterwards, and sure, look, they're not going to be talking like that, are they? But I think I got that feeling from it, particularly near the end. I think both teams would be happy with the draw. I know Kilkenny were better, Galway were better in the first half. Kilkenny were better in the second half. Kilkenny probably did enough to edge that one, being honest. But and look, they'll be disappointed that they kind of threw away a winning position at the end. But I think they'll be happy enough. I think the way this fixture has gone in the last few years, so who would ever win the round robin would usually lose the Leinster final, and vice versa. It's kind of flip-flopping. So now I think, the other team would use that as motivation going into the next game. So I think with the draw, it's just teased out. I'm presuming both teams will get to the Leinster final. Galway probably have the hard work done at this stage. Kilkenny, I still I think they're going to beat what's there. So I'd imagine with those two teams in the final. And it sets it up nicely. I know it's a few weeks away, but doesn't it?
A lot of the subplots on the sidelines last day, and you were obviously doing sideline duty. Last year, everything was obviously about Cody and Shefflin, but was there a dynamic there on the sideline with, you obviously have Derek Ling and Henry Shefflin, who were former teammates?
Yeah, it was interesting. Do you know what was there? It was a nice change. We all know what happened last year.
Yeah.
There was you could actually tell there was a real respect between the two of them. They shared a dressing room for the best part. I think it was probably just under a decade. They did some special stuff together on the field as a group, and I just kind of got this feeling between the two of them there was real healthy respect. And I think it was a big moment for Henry going back to Nolan Park, because usually before these games, we talk to both managers before the game, and Henry declined the interview. Like, there was no big deal. They're not obliged to do it. They're kind of helping out, really. And if they want to talk before the game, they can. So he just asked if he could leave it, and that's fine. But I just got the feeling that, he was, I don't know if it was a nervousness, or maybe he just didn't want the attention on himself before the game. He just wanted the game to go on. But that Kilkenny team, that was their home. That's where they trained and prepared for all these All-Ireland wins. So that Nolan Park is like a second back garden to Henry Shefflin. And I'd say it must have been a little bit strange walking in there and, getting ready for such a big game, but not, wearing a Kilkenny crest over his heart. So, even after the game, it was nice. It was a nice kind of, bit of a business-like shake hands afterwards, but, the healthy respect there.
I could see afterwards in your interview when you put the question to Cody, obviously, about Henry being his uncle. Like that was just really special. And when he was talking there about the next time he goes down to see Henry, his uncle, as well.
Yeah, it was weird, wasn't it? Like,
yeah.
what other sport would that happen in? I think that's what makes the GAA so special. And so that was a lovely moment. And he could easily have kicked that to touch, Paul, and just kind of went, But he sort of embraced it and owned it, didn't he? Which was lovely. And he had a cracking game, absolutely cracking game. And it must have been strange as well for TJ Reid. Like, the lads are, they're good buddies. Like, their houses are a stone's throw away from each other, and to be building up such a big game, like, it must have been strange in that neighborhood down in Ballyhale, Shamrocks, that week, in the build up to it that week. But yeah. I was actually talking to Henry about this before the game. He was just kind of looking on the pitch, and I went over to him to wish him all the best. And it must have been nice for him, because usually he's doing that big commute from Kilkenny to Galway, and he had a nice short hop, didn't he, for the match on Sunday.
Just with the game itself, you could really say, you talk about Owen Cody's performance from a Kilkenny perspective, but Brian Kincannon from Galway as well, 1-5. He goes off with blood on the head, gets it bandaged up, comes back on. It was nearly at stages Kincannon versus Cody in that game.
Yeah, they were absolutely brilliant, I have to say. Kincannon, I thought he lit up the first half. Probably a little bit fortuitous with the goal. Might have snuck a few extra steps, but he took it so well. But he really stepped up for Galway, especially in that first half. I think the knock, it actually looked pretty nasty. I kind of got a good view of.
Yeah, the went right in.
Yeah, and I saw, like, afterwards, like the it was a nasty one. Like, it obviously, it was just a pure accident, but like it I'd say it did rattle him. But still, that when they needed him going down the stretch, he was there. He was still digging in, and it was a right tussle. They were. So when I'm on the sideline, I'm listening to the match. They're deciding on the man of the match, and it was kind of. It was I think it was between the two lads, and maybe they kind of went with Cody because Kilkenny looked like they were going to win it, you know. But I think you could have tossed a coin between the two of them. Maybe Cody just shaded it, you know. But it's great to see Brian Concannon in such great form, and you know, I think it's probably helping him as well, Paul, that, you know, Henry Shefflin being, you know, obviously one of the greatest attackers the game has ever seen, you know, to be working with a coach like that. And, you know, he must be getting, as are the rest of the attackers, must be getting some excellent coaching there, you know. That's you know, I think we're going to see the best from him this year.
Particularly as well with his just directness and raw pace running at Kilkenny now. There's obviously an argument there with the goal. Maybe he overcarried it, but he got it. No one from Galway is going to complain about that. But just them elements that he showed at the weekend was nearly Brian Concannon back to his best.
No, I think so. I think the big challenge actually for Galway, I think Brian was flying on all cylinders, and in the second half, when Kilkenny, look, this is a tradition at this stage. They kind of just come storming out of the block, start the second half, and you know, that's when they do real damage. And I actually took out I haven't actually looked at them since Sunday, but I have my notes here from Sunday. And just before I came on with you, I was just kind of looking back, and I just wanted to check one thing, and it's actually scary stuff. So, but this is the second half now when Kilkenny went on that blitz. I'm just kind of looking through it here, right? So Galway, up to the 60th minute, right? Galway scored 7 points. Only 3 of them were from play. So from 35 to 60, you know, the attack kind of went. They went really quiet, didn't they?
There's a lot of pot shots there, over the shoulder shots. I'm sure Henry, when he looks back at that, would be saying like they're shots that they shouldn't have taken on. Even Conor Cooney was trying to get himself back into the game. I think he missed 2 points, one from the sideline. But there's other players as well. Kevin Cooney could have offloaded the ball as well for a goal chance there. Probably decision making in that period probably wasn't the best for Galway.
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head. And but when you're playing the likes of Kilkenny, you know, especially when it gets to knockout hurling, you just can't afford that, you know. Like we saw it in Limerick game last year. What was it, 19 wides? Yeah. And again, maybe some of this, you know, maybe unlucky a few times in that one. But, you know, these big games, you have to be taking those chances. And, you know, so that I guess I'm not knocking anyone or picking anyone out in particular, but I think it's just a group thing. But you need everyone. It's going to take more than 1 or 2 players like Brian Concannon, or, you know, you need everyone kind of firing, especially against the likes of Kilkenny's, or, you know, the bigger challenges like, you know, the Limericks, the Tips, the Corks, these teams. You're going to need everyone chipping in, you know. And I think Brian Concannon probably, you know, what was it, 1-5? I think he scored. Looking at the program here, you know, I'm actually looking at the Conor Cooney, the quiet game. Conor Whelan had a quiet game. You know, Evan Nyland shot the lights out against Wexford. Like, he got what was it looking here? 6 points, 1 from play. You know, you need those guys to be chipping in general play as well. And, you know, look, everyone has a good day or a bad day, you know. So I hope the lads, you know, this is very early in the season all the time, you know, but like Galway have serious pedigree there in that forward line. Just get them all going, checking on the one day, it'd be super for them.
And there probably is something in that, because there would have been a lot talked about in the build-up to this game, even the piece they were doing on the Sunday game, the importance of Conor Whelan. Conor Whelan still got 2 points, but Hugh Lawler did a terrific man-marking job on him. But there is something in that for Galway, and probably a positive to take away from it, that they can get the result without Conor Whelan being at the peak of their powers, because maybe in the last year or two there has been an over-reliance on him.
Yeah, and I feel sorry for him. I'd be honest with you, like, honestly, you know, you just have one of those days, you know. And like Hugh Lawler, like, he's one of the top defenders in the country, isn't he? And, you know, I think sometimes Conor Whelan used to shoulder a lot of responsibility. People have kind of started to gravitate towards him since Joe Canning left, and kind of be the lad that leads them, and that's a lot of pressure for any one player. I think it was a huge pressure on Joe as well when he was doing it. So, you can't be reliant on one player, and I like Conor Whelan. Honestly, he is some bit of stuff, and like he is so, it's only, you don't see it on the television or you watch it from home. It's only when you go and see a game and you look at the attention he gets from the defender, maybe two defenders, because very often teams are doubling up on him now,
9 times out of 10 he can win the ball when there's two men on him.
Yeah, and like he's just very, I just thought it was one of those games, it was just hard for him to get room, and I was kind of sitting between the two dugouts, but I think the Galway management team were kind of looking for him to try and get a bit more space. That seemed to be the message that was coming from them, but it was just so tight down there, and Kilkenny, I was actually trying to think, probably haven't seen them, when you're down close on the touchline like that. They are, people talk about Limerick and Galway being real physical teams. The Kilkenny lads, they are so strong. They are absolute force of nature. They're just so, big physical guys, I think if one of us mere mortals, Paul, ran into one of those lads on a hurling field, we wouldn't be getting up too quickly, so that's what you're dealing with.
Just on that from a Kilkenny perspective, when you talk maybe about them minimising some of the Galway forwards, but it's hard to not be in awe of Mikey Butler when you consider the size of him and he's winning the ball above some lads. Like, it's just remarkable. Like,
yeah. Do you know what? Just a special talent, but like, especially in the game like that as well, it was just so physical. And again, it's something you don't see on the television where, you don't have a second to blink. You don't, but for him, not only winning the ball, but then to find space to get it out, I just think any player that's able to do that is just worth their weight in salt. And another player actually he's just so good at it. Like, they probably didn't have his best of games, was TJ Reid, and look, he's only coming back into it now, but like when he gets in the ball, he manages to find space where there is none, and I think that marks out a really special player. Any guy that can do that in the heat of battle like that, they're different gravy.
Just on the game in the first half, Darren, because when I went back to studio, you could see Donald Ogan, Jackie Turber analysing the game, and it was kind of being compared to the Clare Limerick game, that the intensity wasn't there. For you looking on from the sideline, was there intensity there in the first half, or was it a bit back from, like, it was obviously Clare and Limerick was in everyone's minds because it was the night before, but was there a lack of intensity there in the first half?
It wasn't on the same level, it wasn't on the same level, but I don't think that was deliberate. To be honest with you, if you look at the Clare game with Limerick, like, Clare's backs was the wall,
Yeah. So,
and that was the only way they had to meet Limerick, fire with fire. Like, they were battling for it. If they lost,
yeah,
they were as good as gone, weren't they? So I think with Galway and Kilkenny, like, I thought it was a real battle, but it was a different sort of battle. And I think probably, in sport, when there's in the back of your mind, when it's, you can afford to slip up here. That was probably in the back of both their minds. Now, they're not going to admit that, but there was a safety net there for them, wasn't there? And that wasn't there for Clare. So I think that's why it just went to a different level. And look, I think the atmosphere in the Gaelic grounds as well, there was 30,000 there, like, that kind of probably gets under the player's skin as well and gets them going a little bit more. But yeah, not on the same intensity, but if they meet again in the Leinster final, what's at stake is huge. You're talking about, you know, well, if Limerick keep going, if they to win Munster, you know, you're talking about avoiding Limerick in a semi-final. So, and the stakes be huge. I was talking to Tommy Welsh about this actually. Isn't Galway and Kilkenny turning into, like, I know they're not neighbours, but it's a really serious rivalry. Like Kilkenny love beating Galway. You know, Cody's come out and said it. You know, it was the 2001 game where Galway kind of bullied them. I think that was, Cody says that was one of the platforms for, you know, them going on for all the success they had, because they said that's never going to happen, a Kilkenny team again, you know, where you're bullied off the ball like that. So it's turned into a great rivalry. I know we're not near neighbours or anything like that, but I think there's a real healthy respect there on and off the field.
Yeah, you could even see nearly by Tommy's kind of pre-match analysis, like it would build you up when he's even talking about the Bob O'Keefe Cup and everything. And like as you said there, when you look at the games, really since 2012 when Galway won the first Leinster, since then, like in the last decade, there's been remarkable games between the two.
No, there was, yeah. Poor old Tommy is, I'd say he was dying to get out and play himself. He was, he was excited. Look, he's such a passionate guy, such a passionate fella. But no, like I think it's like Kilkenny probably have in terms of the pecking order, you know, they're well ahead of Galway. But I think, you know, Galway, it's, you know, it's a real barometer, isn't it, for how good you're going when you go up against Kilkenny. And yeah, I used to always look with so much respect for Kilkenny and what they've done, you know. And I was thinking, if you can get near Kilkenny, you know, you have a chance. But they just broke our hearts so many times, didn't they, over the years? But
yeah, I think every Galway supporter still feels like we owe them a few.
I'll be honest with you, Paul, right? I was it 2012, the one of the replay?
Yeah.
Jeez, I was just like, oh, that one that got away, you know. Shefflin destroyed us in the second half. Yeah. Great memories and disappointing ones as well. But the one thing I have to say about Kilkenny people, it is remarkable what they do down there. It is a small county in terms of population. And they are just obsessed with the small ball. And, you know, it was lovely. I parked my car actually up by O'Loughlin Gales, just past it, and I walked down and, you know, I said to you, I got there nice and early, but went out and there was a kind of a nursery session on at the front of it, and I just kind of looked over the wall for a little while, and, you know, even these little fellas, you know, they're brilliant, like, to watch them, you know, and they're just so into it. And there's a real special atmosphere down there, you know. Now they like to win too. They don't like to lose. They really don't like to lose. But their passion, I think, for the game and what they've done for the game of hurling, like you know, I know people talk about Limerick now and where they brought the game, but Kenny just put hurling on a different level, and it was up to all the other counties then to get to that level. So like, it's a different sport since that. Before that Kilkenny team, they've just taken it to a whole new level, and like Limerick have managed to build on that again, you know. So yeah, healthy respect for them.
And just on that, when we were talking there about the intensity in the first half, it definitely did feel like somewhat that as that game went on in the second half, that the intensity levels were rising and rising.
No, it was. And so at half-time, Kilkenny came back out of the field and ready with 15 minutes to go. But Galway kept them waiting for another 2 or 3 minutes. And I wonder, was it maybe, you know, Galway thinking, you know, it might take a bit of sting out of them or something. They're expecting the big rush coming, you know. And I actually think it probably poked the bear, because they just came flying out. Like, it was like balls thrown in, bang, hits going in all over the field. And they were just so up for it. It was kind of, I know Kilkenny have a new manager, but I think that's that's nearly part of the DNA. We are going to come out here, and you better hang on for as long as you can. Like I'm just kind of looking like at my notes down here again. They just blitz Galway. Like what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 scores to 2. In the first 7 or 8 minutes, like just bang. Geez, that's, I don't know how, what is it like? They just seem to do that in every game, don't they?
That's a positive though from a Galway perspective, because when Kilkenny did go ahead by 6, you were nearly kind of thinking back to the Leinster final last year when Kilkenny went into the ascendancy. It was tough for Galway to claw that back, but the character to be shown by that side is probably the biggest positive to take from the weekend.
I think so. I think Henry Shefflin will be delighted with that performance. They were good. They weren't at their brilliant best. I think there's a lot more to come. But I think the way this championship is kind of shaping up, it's just about peaking kind of at the knockout stages. I think there's a lot of back and forth, Munster and Leinster, that Leinster isn't as competitive, and maybe 4 places should be going to Munster and 2 to Leinster to the All-Ireland series. But like they've got games now coming up, like they shouldn't have any problems with, really, like, let's be honest. And I think now, they want to peak now for a Leinster final if they get there, and then that's the start of the season. Bang, off you go. Whereas teams in Munster, it's just every week is a battle. If you lose one game, you're on the back foot, because you're looking over your shoulder then going, just don't lose 2 back-to-back, do we? So in Leinster, the kind of teams probably have that kind of benefit, don't they? There's a bit more leeway.
Has the All-Ireland race opened up for you after the weekend, or is it actually you're thinking now and you're actually looking at Limerick, and they have a 3-week break? They only lost by a point to Clare. Doesn't seem like the end of the world, but there will be people doubting Limerick now and stuff. Has it opened up, or are Limerick still clear favourites for you?
No, I think they're still the clear favourites. I think. Did you know what? Actually, I think Keane Lynch is going to be okay, isn't he? But Sean Finn,
that's the significant one.
There's no word from that, yet. But I remember at the time people were, this didn't look great. So I think they're the team to beat if they can just avoid those injuries,
It's opportunities for their other players though now, probably at feet to break in.
Yeah, big time. I think they're probably, for me, people are saying they're getting tired. And when I say tired, not physically, probably mentally, just keeping it on the go all the time. And it does. Sure, drains you, but they've got a really good management team around them, and I think the Limerick players themselves are lucky enough, kind of got to know them a little bit over the years, and they invited me down to an event a couple of years ago as well, and the one thing that struck me about them was they are such a tight-knit group of lads. They're, in most counties, players, their teammates or whatever, and, they go back to their own friends and their own circle. But these Limerick lads actually hang out together. They are best friends, and I think you can see that on the field, just it takes them to a whole new level. So look, I think they're still the team to beat. But if you wanted to beat Limerick, you want to beat them in a knockout game, don't you? You don't want them coming back at you the next day. You don't want to beat them a second time. You're going to get one shot at it.
Yeah, no, almost similar to those kind of successful Kilkenny teams when we're talking about them. But just on the character Galway shown, the switches Henry Shefflin went with, he has to deserve credit. They were bold moves. Liam Collins comes on for Conor Cooney, gets a point, But like, what about Declan McLoughlin coming on for Conor Whelan and the score he gets on his championship debut, and even to hear Joe Canning then on the Sunday game on about how Declan McLoughlin only lives a few houses down from their home house in Portumna as well.
Yeah, crazy stuff. I've actually I'm looking at the program here just to see, I want to mention Fintan Burke as well.
Yeah,
he did really well. Liam Collins, Jason Flynn did well. He chipped in with a point, and good to see him. He looks fit. But Declan McLoughlin,
it was a difficult shot to take on.
Just even that was a championship debut, Paul. Now I'd heard he'd been going well in training, but from to do something like that, and if you think about it as well, I don't think he has a huge amount of Galway underage experience. Like, I don't think he's one of these guys who's been earmarked from a long way out.
He was a sub on his minor team,
Yeah. And he was kind of a squad player in the 20s last year. Do you know what it was interesting because Henry Shefflin mentioned him when our chat after the game. I was asking him about him, and Henry said, I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but something along the lines of this, that when he first came in, he just had to hit the ground running. But he said it was great having the off season last year to go and look at Galway club games.
Yeah.
And he said he spotted Declan McLoughlin, and he said this guy is something when he was playing for his club Portumna, and obviously brought in then, given the chance. But isn't it funny? Like, Henry Shefflin, actually, something similar happened to him. Like, Henry wasn't the big underage star. Isn't there that famous photograph of Kieran's College, and he's a sub on it. And I think that's, Henry obviously has an open mind to these things. Coming from outside the county in and seeing, maybe there's always one or two that comes through the net. I was one of them, and look at the career I had. So I think that open mind, sometimes when you, and the lad, look, the home managers from inside the county, sometimes they might have their mind made up about a certain player because they probably know them from a very young age. I think that's the beauty of having someone like Henry Shefflin, very open mind. This guy, it was funny. Like, I was looking at him after the game, Declan McLoughlin. I don't know the lad, but he just looks so young, and I actually think he was in shock. That what happened.
Was there anything you seen with him straight away when he came on before that move, or even when he got to score after that, like, that impressed you from the sideline watching on, looking at him?
The big thing that struck me was, like, he's not even fully developed. Like, you can tell, the lads that are out in the field, like, they've obviously the strength and conditioning for the last, he's a bit of a way to go in terms of development, physically. So it was kind of struck me that, he's kind of young, and look at, he's only really starting out on that kind of strength and conditioning journey. But I said, there must be, he just looks so young as going, there must be something about this lad, and, he was very relaxed. The one thing, actually, say if you're making your championship debut, like, your mind must be racing. He was so calm. The easy thing to do with that ball is to knock it down the channel, I think he had an option or two. I forget who was inside, but, like, he had an option or two because it was on that side. And he was just with the confidence to take that on, and it was never in doubt for him. Super score.
As well with that, there was a lot of debate. Should Liam Collins be released at the weekend, obviously, because he couldn't play in the under-20, and maybe there was frustration there after that, and you're wondering, was that the best thing to do? But then when you see him put in a performance like that as well, it's obviously added. But, like, there was a lot of debate. Obviously, the 20s ultimately came up short on Saturday against Offaly, and he would have done their chances no harm whatsoever could have been the difference, but you can see that he's very much in Henry's plans.
Yeah, he looks like a good talent, and I think he chipped in with a point as well, didn't he?
Yeah, chipped in with points, yeah.
Yeah, like he's like savage stuff. Looks a really good player, but there's a few of them there, Paul. Like, I had been talking to someone, and the word is that a few of these guys they're doing unbelievable at training, like really putting up the hand, and the talk is, do you take a chance on them, But I think we got our answer there at the weekend, didn't we? There's 2 or 3 lads. They've done remarkably well. I want to mention TJ Brennan as well. I just thought he was immense. He picked up TJ Reid, and did a great job. Probably he's still young as well. He's
how did he notify him in periods? Was ranting TJ Brennan did on TJ Reid that impressed?
I just think he just was like he was just breathing down his neck, basically. I think the Galway defence as a unit played really well, and that probably, they probably are working really well together. I thought they did really well they didn't cough up too many goal chances, did they?
Not necessarily, yeah, when you think about it, and even
no, there wasn't going, geez, that was tight. And I think probably had a point to prove after the Wexford game and the couple of goals they conceded there. But I was really impressed with them as an overall unit. But I just thought, I remember, people probably looking at, Dahi and Gerrard and, Mannion, but I thought, TJ Brennan just probably, I don't remember anyone picking him out that he did, but he was marking TJ Reid, like TJ. Look here, my pro. What did he? Yeah, he scored 9 points, and he's close to the record. The overall championship record.
It's very interesting to see there. He could have overtaken the record, and then Patrick Horgan could have overtaken him again.
We only got one from play.
Yeah. No, it's a terrific round. And TJ Brennan has that great season. Just on that, one of the subs is your own clubman, Donald O'Shea. Saw Till Knocknacara, haven't had a Galway senior hurler before, but what has that done for hurling in Sawtill to have a player involved?
Look, it's unbelievable, really. Sawtill are junior hurling club, and usually when a good hurler comes along from Sawtill, they kind of go to another club, But Donald is a special talent, and I'm absolutely delighted for him. And the thing is, he's there on merit, and even to see his name in the program, it's such a big deal, And there's Salthill probably traditionally, it's a Gaelic football club and very strong, football team. Got to the county final last year. Probably should have won it actually. But the funny thing is, a lot of those footballers are really good hurlers as well. And John O'Mahony doesn't want to hear me saying this, but if Salthill Knocknacara got about 3 or 4 of those guys back up in playing hurling, even just playing the games, John O'Mahony, they wouldn't be in junior for long more. Do you know he's a brilliant hurler? Is Carl Sweeney. I think he's doing great for the footballers at the minute. He is a super hurler. Different level stuff, and but look at the young lads. Great to see the young lads. Just he's such a good fella around the club as well. He's always helping out, and coaching the helping out with the coach and the Camogie team, the underage team, and anytime you want him down to do a session, once he can, probably getting harder to get him now because he's kind of really involved with the senior team, but he'd always come down and help out or whatever, or digging out the cool camps and stuff over the years. So everyone's really proud of him, and you know what, just the serious talent in that forward line. I think he'll have his work cut out to get in there, but you know, I like, you probably just need to be patient, you know, he just probably just needs to be patient and his time will come and he'll take it too when it comes.
Absolutely, when you consider it's his first year, and even you talk there about SNC, like it's such a huge part of the game, but another year or two in there, and he could even get his chance this year because it's seen Henry Shefflin hasn't been afraid to give people opportunities. That draw is honestly really character building for Galway. This weekend now come up against Westmeath. You'd be fairly certain that Galway are going to get the result this weekend against Westmeath, but probably interesting to see now does kind of Henry Shefflin kind of switch it up, because it's a lot to kind of ask the same group of players to go and play for a third week in a row, and he probably will try and just freshen it up a small bit.
Yeah, well, you know what? I hate the term freshen it up. As you're kind of, you know, you don't want to be disrespectful to Westmeath either. She don't, but
Yeah.
like they you know, they probably have Westmeath's number. You know, Galway have serious momentum now. I think Westmeath will be disappointed with last weekend themselves. You know, it seemed to be a lot of frustration there on the line after the match and stuff. And like Galway, I don't know if he'll make huge wholesale changes. Like I think there'll be a few lads. You know, I'd love to see the likes of Jason Finn now maybe get some game time there. You know, and just kind of try and get momentum, because like I think if Galway can get the best out of Jason Finn, I think he's a real addition. You know, and probably needs to get a bit of momentum. Bad injury last year. He'd actually been going really well up to that point, you know. So, yeah, there might be an opportunity for them, or you know, even likes of, you know, Conor Whelan, you know, Conor Cooney, maybe just to kind of play themselves into it as well. You know what I mean, and just kind of build up the confidence. So, they should win. Great to see these young lads get another go, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, and it's probably a bit ominous for Westmeath, because they'll probably look at what Galway did to them last year in Pearse Stadium. Now it will still be a challenge going up to Keysap Park, but as you said, you would expect Galway to probably come out in this comfortably in the end.
I think they will. The goal now for Galway is just to get the job done, you know, and you know, you don't. I think what they'll just focus on is themselves and just focus on the performance, you know, and then everything else will look after itself.
You probably would be quite surprised now if they don't reach the Leinster final.
No, I think they'll reach the Leinster final. You know, I think they will. I think they've got done that. I think they've got the hard job done. You know, and I know they just have to get the points on the board now. But yeah, I think they will. I think Kilkenny and Galway are both going to have a major say in the championship. I know there's a lot of hurling to be done, but I think the two of them, they're not going to be far off it. You know, you know, I know a lot of people maybe talking there. Like Munster's, it's a bit of a crazy place, really, isn't it? Because
you don't know
you don't know what's going to happen. Like Cork looked really good at the weekend. You know, they have Tip up next. I think we'll know a lot more about both those teams after the weekend.
It's scary for Munster, I feel, because like how much Munster took out of Clare last year, you don't know how much Munster could take of certain teams again this year, because like
that's it. And
do you know? And there's going to be a bigger kick in Waterford as well in their last two games for sure.
Yeah, no. Someone actually said to me, this is really interesting, the weekend, that the thing at Munster is, more so than Leinster, you need a really good panel, because you need to be able to, you know, bring in the fresh legs and kind of, you know, maybe what got Clare last year, because they just went so gung-ho for it that maybe by the time they got into the All-Ireland series, you know, they didn't have huge options on the bench and freshness, and just kind of had to go to the well too many times. So it was interesting, wasn't it? Just having in Munster, you kind of need a good panel. You can't be going to the same guys all the time, you know. Makes sense too, doesn't it?
Just finally to put it to you, Darren, I've been putting it to most people, asking them this, but can the Galway hurlers win the All-Ireland for you this year?
Of course they can. I think they can win it every year. Like, they haven't gone away. There's been a few changes in terms of personnel, but like they've been thereabouts since 2017, 2016. You know, those, like, they've been kind of up there now, 7-8 years. And I know the management teams have changed, but they're thereabouts every year. I think Galway fans just want them to be competitive, but they actually are competitive. For years and years, they weren't competitive. But they're there every year. And I know they're not winning All Irelands every year. But, you just want your team to be, you want them to be there and when they shout, like, and I think the Galway fans, like, need to appreciate that as well. Like last year, like, they should have beat Limerick. Should have beat them. If you look back on it, you just go, how did they not win that? I think Limerick just got the fright of their lives. So they're good enough. And I think Henry Shefflin's brought, actually? He's brought this he's a winner. He is a winner. And I think he's brought that to the Galway dressing room. I think that's out of all the things that Henry Shefflin has brought, I think there's a really good management and coaching team there. And there's a couple of lads there from when Mihal was there as well. And there was a really good feeling and vibe in the squad back then. So there's a bit of that. And then you bring in someone like Henry, and Richie there is meant to be excellent. But I think he's just an absolute winner. Like, look at his track record, what he's done, And, it's really, I'll finish up with Tommy Welsh again, and he just said to me, look, we're sending him up there for a few years to get the old experience, and he'll be back down to us then again, So, like, I think Galway should enjoy this and get the most they can out of Henry and the experience, I think they're thriving under him. I think they're going to have a big year.
Yeah, here's hoping for a big year. And as I said there, it's Galway and Westmeath this weekend in the Leinster Championship for Galway fans to look forward to. That's all on our podcast for today. We're back next week with a review of that game and look at the final rounds of the Leinster Senior Hurling Championship. That's all on our show for today. Thanks a million for your time, Darren.
Thank you.
The Backdoor GAA Podcast for 2023 is now brought to you by Steede Motor Group. For your personalised vehicle shopping experience, visit steedemotorgroup.ie. We are now delighted to announce our second sponsor of the podcast. Harper Finlay are a professional service recruitment company operating nationwide and are dedicated to helping people find their dream job.